Good morning, everyone. My name is Ellen, and I'm the founder of INOA, a Hawaii-based blockchain company, and the lead organizer for the Hawaii Blockchain Summit. This episode of the Brandy Camacho Show is a very special one, as Brandy herself is in the hot seat, and I'm interviewing her for this pre-summit interview. I'm really excited because we're going to deep dive into Brandy's journey in tech, as well as her experience as an entrepreneur. So, Brandy, are you ready for us?
Thank you so much for
Awesome.
getting this started for us. I appreciate it.
Of course. So, Brandy, I read your bio on meetbrandy.com a couple of times because there's so much information. It was just so interesting to see your journey. And it looked like your journey into tech started really early in your teens, which was something that was very interesting for me. So maybe could you just tell us a little bit more about that and in your story?
I was from the silent generation. I was at the tail end of Generation X. So I know that dates me a little bit, but I do have over 25 years of professional tech experience. And when you're talking about things like childhood and those teenage years, I mean, it was a difficult time period. And to be honest with you, we're talking about the advent of online chat, AOL, the prodigies, the dial up. I would be staying up late at night just trying to find my community, to find a way to have a place in this world. I was really confused. I came from a high tension household where there is a lot of abuse, both physically and mentally. It was my therapy. It was like a digital detox every night when I would have some free time to go on AOL and chat with other people. So I got to find a community. It was my first experiencing what a virtual community can be and how it can empower you. Also, it was my first time into awareness of needing education to be safe on the internet. And this is still prevalent even today. When I think about those young teens who might be challenged and they're looking for a way to get support, most
Mhm.
likely they're to go with the least friction, and that's going to be online. I had a ton of friction. I had dial up. I had green screens. These computers were archaic. They were not fun. And I still found a way to get some digital bliss in a time period where I just needed to escape and feel like I belong. And so that was my first time in my life that really set the stage for me and my passion towards technology because it did set me free in a sense of who I am in this world.
Yeah, that's so powerful. I mean, clearly like tech has been a huge part of your life from your childhood to your career. You talked about kind of finding your community, finding your space. Is there anything else, your experience of technology that keeps you engaged? Was it also because of learning opportunities, the speed of how technology was changing?
Technology changes so fast. We see it today, and it's even more prevalent when you look back historically. And we can look at the video gaming industry. And I just want to do a call out here because video games are amazing. I was told at a very young age, as a young girl, being told the more that you play these games, the more it's going to rot your brain. That was the warning at that time period.
Oh yeah,
Right.
sure.
And so I had this one game I just kept on playing on repeat because I only had one game. It was called Oregon Trail. And it's like, you find your path, you get to choose. It's a decision tree. You get to choose what direction you want to go. I got bored with the game and I just want to hack it. And so a lot of my root comes from just trying to develop an experience for myself and belong. Now, what's different about then and now is the ability to be creative, right? In
Mhm.
today's time, we're so rich with this digital media that sometimes it's hard to find your place. Where do you go? What's the potential opportunity for you? For me, at that time period with the green screens, with the
Mhm.
dial up, there's so much friction. I got to use my imagination. And so when I was going into these communities, I got to figure out in my head first, what was that community I was looking for and how do I find them? And it's a way for me to test and check. In today's
Mhm.
time, we get to test and check so much faster. And there are some dangers here when we think about our youth and we think about everybody that's connecting, because I think all of us, Ellen, are looking for a bit of community no matter what. Even
Mhm.
online, when we're searching things like Facebook Marketplace, we're really trying to find local trusted resources that we can depend on. And that
Sure.
comes all the way down to the way that we look at personal growth strategies for our own selves on discovery. Who am I? Where am I going to go? And then the career track, right? How are we going to build on our career track? The difference between back then when I first started and now is today it's practically mandatory that you have an online profile, that you have
Mhm.
some
It's true.
connection and you showcase versatility in regards to your skill set. And I think more than ever before, we should be showcasing the human side, the human
Mhm.
centric of technology in an AI driven world. And so that's why I love things like blockchain technology, disruptive technologies. I love waking up every day. I get energized. And I do the same thing with technology. What can we do today that's different than yesterday? How can we advance today to bring some better human-centric enjoyment to our life. It's all about quality of life.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I think what I was curious about is, did you find community back then in your early days of dealing with working on technology and being in all those communities?
So when you're younger,
Yeah.
your perception of the world is going to be different than what your perception of the world is today. So that's why we got to be mindful of the dangers out there on the internet when we're advocating for folks to utilize today's technology with AI. I mean, for once, we finally have the ability to provide therapy to everybody anytime they need at any point in time, right? Because of AI, we have the means to support each other in potentially a trustless way. And what I mean by trustless ways, you don't need to trust the AI. So you can ask it questions and you can learn on these things. The reason why this is important, because that too is in a sense of community. So when we're looking at what is a community, we have a community as a group of people that are supporting us. Then we have a community of digital assets or digital people or digital AIs also supporting us. So I think we're in a new hybrid approach between a, machine connected world and a human centered world. And so I think the biggest challenge now, it wasn't a challenge for me then, is how do we remain human centric in this machine driven world? And I think the bigger question is moving forward is finding the community that's going to allow us the human connectedness so we can champion those new and innovative ways of thinking outside the traditional system. Because if everybody's going AI asking the same question, then we're going to end up coming up with the same results. And that's not going to be fruitful for us for innovation. So you mentioned earlier, you asked a question, how to find a community? It's being persistent. That's how you find a community. The more that you ask a question, the more that you look for a solution, the faster that you're going to reach a connectedness to your community. So you just can't do it by doing nothing. You got to reach it. It could be as simple as getting online, communicating, looking at local resources, finding things that really point on you to
Mhm.
advance the things that you need to move forward.
So it's very interesting that you brought up, the term human centric, right? Because as I'm looking at kind of your journey in technology, the large tech companies you work for, it sounds like human centric is something that kind of embedded in the way you work and in your roles in this large technology companies. So could you share a little bit more about that, maybe in your experience as a manager, as a colleague, as a person working in these tech firms? Yeah.
Yeah. First, I just want to say I didn't feel like I believed in myself. Honestly, I knew what I needed to do. I knew I needed to practice some faith and believe in myself, but the inside of me, I still felt like I wasn't good enough. I had the imposter syndrome. And
Mhm.
so no matter how much I advanced, I always felt like a bit of an imposter. And
Mhm.
that was my very first hurdle to overcome, was overcoming imposter syndrome. And so it wasn't really until my workings with Google and going into companies like Udacity when I started finally breaking that mold. So something that's really interesting about the tech scene is that in Silicon Valley, where if you're in the backyard of Google, Apple, wherever you might be with big tech, there's always a community there. And what's nice about that area, it's rich in these communities. So there's such a large spectrum of areas that you could jump into that are all human centric. Everybody's looking to connect with each other and support each other because we all don't have all the answers by ourselves. So we need to work together. I think the one thing you learn as an engineer when you're writing solutions for people in the sense of software programming
Mhm.
is to provide solutions that tailor to their needs. And so most engineers are human centric from the start. The problem is that sometimes we're afraid. And I think the bigger problem is not being able to find a community. It's how do you interact with the community and what do you do to give yourself a little bit of faith?
Yeah. As a woman engineer working in tech, did you find a community during your journey?
I did. I got to participate in many fantastic opportunities, things like we talked earlier before this interview, where we talked about women in tech community. Google was a strong proponent of diversifying the ecosystem in the sense of talent. It's male driven. How do we bring more women into the tech and truly inspire real innovation that includes everybody?
Mhm.
And so there's been many programs helping facilitate not only awareness and diversity. We need more programs that include for everybody. And I understand that there's some confusion on these, but
Yeah.
at the heart of it, it's all about earning skills and merit. And if you don't get opportunity to build skill and merit, well, then
Mhm.
you're not going to be able to participate in your local community. And we really need to widen the gap. And the saturation historically has been in Silicon Valley. Like even for myself, when you look at my history, I was alone. I was to myself. It's pretty surprising how much that faith and perseverance that we have to push forward can get you the direction that you need to go. I
Mhm.
kept on going down to Silicon Valley, and pretty soon I started working in Silicon Valley. And I had imposter syndrome. In finding these communities, that's why I love hackathons, because you could go to your local chapter of anywhere. Anybody could start a hackathon. You get to meet people just like you. And that's where I found a lot of connectedness is just working with people every day, solving challenges, and then also celebrating the wins from these challenges, doing things you
Mhm.
never thought you would have done before. An area that excites me. And also, I think is a bit of addiction for everybody else that's around me because we all start really celebrating for the win, right? And I think
Right.
at the end of the day, it's building those skills and merits. And so we do need to start including more and more awareness and support. And for the younger generation, what are they going to do? They're more confused than ever before. Like I came from an era where I had to go in the backyard, in a sense, with local kids and play in the fields or,
Mhm.
ride a bike or, play house in that fort that we just made. Like it was a different world than the children today. So I think the bigger question is with so much technology, things that are disruptive like blockchain technology, artificial intelligence, what are we going to do to be mindful for the next generation? And how are we going to empower them so they don't have the same hurdles that we did? Where for me, honestly, it was a bit of confusion. How to get over the imposter syndrome. I wish I solved it earlier than 30.
I think it's really interesting because when we were kids, a lot of play was based on imagination because we didn't really have like the cool screens and everything. It was like go out to the field, figure out something, figure out like a storyline, right, with your friends and who's who. And then you role play and then you imagine what's going to happen. I think now when I see the kids playing like a screen in front of them, and then, it's almost like defined in terms of the experience, like what they're supposed to feel or what they're supposed to do. I don't know. I just feel like this opportunity for imagination is not as rampant with today's technology, even though it's more supposedly sophisticated. What would you say is a moment that you think back to, right? Your work history and why?
Well, at first, I felt like I couldn't break the mold. I could not get in to Silicon Valley. Early on, I was trying to get into Google right when they first started up. I was
Mm,
utilizing the search engine early on. It was like 1996, 1997, or even 99. So it's been a while. But when Google was just getting traction, they had less than 30 employees. I was trying to get in with Google. I
mm,
just couldn't even land an interview. Then I started communicating with other big players in Silicon Valley by just doing some research. Obviously, at this point in time as an adult, I learned how to collaborate a little better. And so I started taking that collaboration and making contact and building my network. I was having the hardest time getting in to Silicon Valley. So what I did is I said, okay, I'm going to start my own business. I'm going to be entrepreneurial. And I
mm,
started network designs, and what I want to do is just captivate the attention and work in the latest tech. I want to use this passion. I didn't want Silicon Valley telling me no, because even though they didn't tell me no, just not even calling me up for an interview broke my heart. I tried
mhm,
so hard to do everything right,
mhm,
and I just couldn't get my foot in the door. I converted that challenge into a bit of an accelerator for me. I utilized that to create my business, to give the best customer service I could to my customers and grow my skills. And all I did from that very moment was constantly focus on growing my skills. And I had to pivot my business multiple times. As an entrepreneur, you cannot just sit still and one
mhm,
hat. You need to constantly change. And I learned this early on. And I was actually having a bit of fun with it. Something
mhm,
that's interesting with tech is it changes so much. You either like it or you don't. And if you like it, that is a signal right there that you have a bit of passion for change. And this industry is right, needing constant change. And that's
yep,
something like when I look back to all my efforts, it's really the willingness for participating in change and also the drive to want to help create that change. And today, it's still part of my passion. I just don't see myself working in any other industry because this is my world. And so I really hope that we get more. Like,
mm,
I know that you're out there. If you're watching this and you just think that you don't have enough courage, and like, my gosh, believe in yourself and just take the risk because the worst thing that can happen is someone tells you no. If you don't even try, well, then it's no. And that's a testament to my background because after I worked in network designs, Ellen, I was able to pivot my business. And that's how I got attention from big tech. That's how I got by pivoting and then
yep,
getting myself into local events, working with the local community, like hackathons. Those were fairly new at that time period when I started. And so just embellishing myself to support, I think
mhm.
is really important.
I hear so many golden nuggets of advice and wisdom for first time entrepreneurs, having courage and believing in yourself, having faith. And then during your entrepreneurial journey, you got into the actual company that you were trying to get into, but you started out as an entrepreneur. It's like really fascinating, right? So I think my question to you is, what was that transition like? Was it easy for you to give up your company and move into something that wasn't yours anymore? And then what was the decision making point? Because I think, some entrepreneurs as well, right? We go back and forth because sometimes the journey gets really rocky and you're like, oh, should I just quit this and go back and work for someone? Yeah.
I thought about it many times because there's points where I'm like, oh my goodness, quality of life, right? What is quality of life? What's that mean? It's like, is it just owning my time? Is it having the financial means to buy new things? Is it materialistic? Like quality of life is something that taken me a long time to work out.
Mhm.
And I just want to focus on that because when I look at my decisions, everything was around quality of life. When it comes down to sunsetting my business network designs to go work in big tech, it was more about the opportunity. And there's an opportunity cost, something that I love. I don't know if you ever watched Shark Tank. It's a fun show.
Mhm.
There's a lot of entrepreneurs go on that Shark Tank and they're like, hey, I need an investment for my business. And what happens is they don't want to give up the equity, right? And a lot of times the shark's feedback is, hey, you can have the whole grape or you can have a large part of a watermelon that's bigger in regards to like market size, right? And the reason why that's important for what I'm saying in regards to analogy is that goes here as well. It's like I had my own business. I was
Mhm.
focusing on solving problems and growing, but I was addicted to learning and I wanted to work with fantastic peers that would challenge my intellectual ability to teach me new things.
Mhm.
And there's an opportunity cost with learning. So it wasn't about financials. It was purely about the experience and opportunity in this crazy world. Because I feel like we
Mhm.
won the life lottery. I think we're all blessed to be alive in today's time. And so what I did is I just focused on quality of life. It was the most difficult decision I ever had. I just remember drafting my letter to all my clients explaining, hey, we're no longer supporting at that time as managed IT services. And we
Mhm.
transitioned managed IT services to software, focusing on mobile. And then I did a big project for like PG&E. And what I did is after that, I sunset it and just told everybody I'm moving forward. It was hard. I think the biggest thing was the challenge was afterwards. I
Mhm.
built clients, like years of relationship. I mean, some clients with me 10 plus years, right? And they pivoted with me from managed IT services to software development and it was emotional and hard. I'm still friends with a lot of clients today, but nonetheless, it was hard. At first, it was more like, I think if anything, finances hold people back. And if I focus
Mhm.
on finances, I just wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have took the risk. But what I said to myself is, I got to at least try. And so I did. And it was the best decision I ever made in my life. I had such fun. I got to work with amazing people like Ariana Huffington. It's just been an adventure. What I want to share to all those folks, especially if you're already an entrepreneur, like you already know, you just got to get started, right? A lot of
Mhm.
times people just don't get started. So if there's anything that could be done for what to do is believe in yourself, is get started and have some faith because you're special, right? It's what you do that makes it. I love that I took the risk. I don't know exactly the recipe for that day when I said, okay, let's send these letters off to everybody. I just knew I had to do it. Bet you anything for that week afterwards, I was probably like, oh, what did I do?
You made the right choice. I mean, see where you've come, right?
Yeah. I mean, when you're making really good money, it's like you have the faucets on, you don't want to turn it off. And for you to like, how many people do you run into just turns off the faucet electively because they want to go ahead and change the temperature, right?
Yourself. Yeah.
That's kind of me.
So, I mean, I don't know. My feeling is just hearing your story and meeting you. Your vibes you give me is someone, like I mentioned before, feisty, right? You're a hustler. It's qualities of an entrepreneur. It's someone who wants to make and create things for the world, right? So, again, you actually just started a new company
Right.
called HackRight. So clearly the entrepreneurial bug didn't leave you after you joined big tech. So maybe just share with us a little bit if about your new company and why you decided to do it. I think the decision making process would also be helpful for people who are trying to figure out if they should start an venture.
Well, To address that right away, I just wish I started recording more of what I did and putting out there early on and self-branding myself, because what I learned in this industry is it could be quite harsh. When things get traction, you get a lot of attention. But when things dry up, I mean, you're put out on the wayside. So you got to start all over again. I'm a pro. I've started all over in many times, but I'm getting older, Ellen. I'm tired of it. I don't want to keep on starting all the time. So this time I want to do something that is more long term, right? The lenses of Silicon Valley is very nearsighted. Nobody wants to look past 3, 6 months. Everybody's in only the immediate near term. And I get that. Test fast and build fantastic products. But some businesses or people like myself want to have a longer roadmap ahead. And so I just want to advise folks, like, self-branding is really important. Even if you're working in big tech or you're not in big tech and you're working somewhere else, like, one of my advices to anybody is to start self-branding yourself sooner than later. You know, era of technology and life, it's really one way to elevate yourself. I wish I did that earlier. When it comes down to, like, HackRight, I want to make a change. And the one thing that I noticed of all the hackathons, and I've done just decades of hackathons, is I would say most are not fully aligned in regards to what would be seen as ethical. And what you have as ethics, Ellen, versus what I have as ethics, it might be two different ethics, but at the core, we have what I would feel is like universal human rights, right? Universally, we should have the right to obtain housing. We should have the right to obtain food. There's these universal human rights that we all should embrace, that shouldn't matter what side you're on. I think technology is behind. I think, like, big tech, they know this. They know it so much, but they still use diversity and inclusion as a marketing ploy. And when I think of things like supporting women in tech or the underprivileged, too often the way that they're getting supported is through marketing incentives for the company. Externally, it looks like the company's doing a good thing for the community, but internally, it's a one-stop shop for just getting immediate attention, and then you're left to the side, and that story was just used for consumption for marketing. I want to change that. When I think about HackRight and HackRight, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of HackRight domain names, whatever. It's HackRight.dev. All right. I'm focusing on the ethics with HackRight.dev. It's really about the middleware. What are we going to do in the middle of data when it comes down to running these events, when we have technology, the ebbs and flows of technologies, the business cycles? How do we safeguard those that are investing their time and strategy into these ecosystems? And that's an area that I just want to help solve for, like, developers, product leaders, founders, entrepreneurs out there. You know this, when you go and participate and there's like a grant, or if there's a hackathon, there's some type of prize. It's like everybody's fighting for that. What are we doing protecting their time? How are we making sure that what they're doing is truly rewarding them, their efforts is going to be fruitful, not in the near term, but in the long term, right? That reputation, that building your brand. So at HackRight, that's my goal, is really centered around ethics. What we end up doing this year for HackRight and what we do 10 years from now for HackRight is going to be vastly different. I'm preparing to pivot many times, but I just want to share right now that my focus is on ethics, the data, and being a middleware. So that way we can have long-term sustainable growth and a roadmap to actually cause an inflection point in the market, saying, hey, it is about skill and merit, and diversity is needed. And so I want to help support that with HackRight.
It's so amazing. I can't wait to see what you do with HackRight and for Hawaii, and of course, beyond the shores of Hawaii as well. But that kind of is a really good segue into both of our passions, and of course, for the summit, which is blockchain, decentralization. And the reason I say that is because on your bio, there's this really powerful statement that you wrote. You said, I believe in the power of decentralized technology to create a more equal, just, and prosperous society. And a lot of that ties back to your values as well as the ethics of tech and so on. That's a really bold statement that you make. I just want to tap into Brandy's brain a little bit. If you could share with us your journey into blockchain, into Web3, and what was the experience like?
Oh my goodness. So I created a slide deck. You'll know me from working at Google, from working at Udacity, working at Celo, right? There's Web 1, 2 era, and then going into Web 3, a top down Google, Udacity, Celo, right? Web 1, 2, and 3, all right there. And then on the right-hand side is my entrepreneurship. Network designs is really what got me there. It's really who I am. And then we got HackRight. Well, I want to focus my efforts, my skills, and the merits I've earned to actually impact the ecosystem. That's HackRight. And then I have the Brandy Camacho Show. So that way I can bring content and try to bring greater awareness to more projects and folks like yourself out there watching this now and support you. So nonetheless, my identity was behind Google, Udacity, and Celo. And as an entrepreneur, I get to format my identity. So I just love that entrepreneurship side. So I just want to share that. It's something that's kind of addicting for me. It's like, wow, I get to actually be impactful here with my efforts. So I ran thousands of projects throughout my career, over 25 years working in tech. I've come through some big hurdles. I know I addressed it earlier, fear, right? That imposter syndrome. So I'm just covering it right here. I converted that to empowerment. So if there's something that I just want to share with all you watching this right now, it's like, if you notice that you have a bit of imposter syndrome, that you're not good enough, start figuring out a path to convert that to empowerment. That means go ahead and take a break, take a walk, do some exercising, go out, look at the ocean, whatever you got to do. You're in Hawaii. You know the state's beautiful. Get out there and empower yourself. You are good. That's the one thing I wish I did earlier. I wish I didn't wait until my 30s. I could have done so much more. Nonetheless, right away, they're like, I was driven, right? How did I need to do it? I need to put myself out there. And I just wanted to go ahead and start leading projects and working with real people on solutions. So this is me. This is a hackathon that I did at Google for Pitch Night. It's on YouTube. Feel free to check it up. Yeah, I sucked at public speaking during this time. And that's another thing. That's taking these challenges kind of help you out, get you the skills that you need to accelerate. And when we talk about prosperity, Ellen, I'm thinking about prosperity of quality of life, right? And it's many ingredients like baking some bread. So when I look back, 2013 was my moment. When you asked about things like, oh, what about Web3? What's that transition? Well, it started back before 2013, but I was really embracing my skills at this time, learning about leadership, learning about team collaboration. And this is why it was my best decision, because when you work for yourself and you own a business, and as you grow, you hire employees, so forth, you're still alone. You're at the top in the sense of the organizational unit. And that's something I want to do differently this time. I want more of a flat playing field as I develop an organization unit. Because what I found, what I discovered by having faith in myself is that I can learn new things. And Google really accelerated this for me. It's like we could test fast, fail fast. That's what's going to get us success, right? Is testing things out. So I expanded my network. And I was the first one, by the way, at Google that embraced Bitcoin. Like I couldn't talk to anybody. There's thousands of people. We have some amazing events happening and nobody would really want to talk to me. I found a couple of people working on chips and so forth, and I have some passion towards hardware. So I would talk with them about it. But yeah, this is a real email back in the day. Me proposition of folks like, let's mine some crypto. And that's, 2013. I think that shows some grit there for it. So I was orange pill. That took curiosity. It took some forward thinking and it took some technical chops. I'm not going to lie. I had to really understand what the heck Bitcoin was. I lost. I mean, unfortunately, because my engineering mindset, I just didn't have economics in check. I didn't really think that Bitcoin could really get to its maturity cycle that we see today, right? I thought the government just squashed it. So I just used it as a testing network, and I wish I kept all those tokens, but we learn. So, 2015, I just moved forward, licked my wounds, and I got addicted to product development at Udacity. Really did. Product development was the thing. And it really started out with this gig. Udacity needs some support for an Android engineer, which blew me away. I'm like, what? You guys have so much fantastic Silicon Valley. Okay, I'll help you out. This would be interesting. And I got connected through Google with Udacity. They were a partner. And so this got me started. I joined in on the careers team as an Android developer, which turned into a technical project manager, which then turned into me running a show, honestly, and creating another business within a business. So the fun thing was is working at Udacity, I got the opportunity to not only test things out, run projects, but then I also got the support funding to kick off a startup within a startup. And we kicked off Udacity Blitz. This was so fun. I don't know if you ever heard about Product Hunt, but we are the product of the day on Product Hunt. And I'm so proud of the team for doing this. Amelia, she's done a fantastic job out with her business as well. And it's something that we're just extremely proud of. This is a time period when we talk about grit. This is grit right here. If you get hired for a company and you can pitch to the company to start a new business, my goodness. I mean, that you can be an entrepreneur in the corporate world too. So super fun. I had a blast. I learned a lot of new things. And really, it was all about just getting people. A lot of what I'm fostering today is prevalent right here in my past. Look at this: mobile, web, AI, VR data. I was building this stuff before it became super popular. Like when you think about HackRight.devs, what we're doing today is not going to be the same 10 years from now. I'm expecting to pivot. what I need to make sure that I iron out, and this is the hardest, I think, for anybody, is what are your top 3 messages for your business? What are you going to do to give the most value to your customers, whoever they might be? And so I just wanted to say, this is my number one thing that I love doing is figuring out how I'm going to provide value. As you can tell, I'm still working on it, but it's coming. Uh, be proud of what you do. And if nobody else understands it, it doesn't matter. It's proud to you. Now, after Blitz, my next was trying to change and educate folks and new technologies, blockchain and Web3. I had the grit. I know exactly what it's like. I tested and played around in the sandbox of crypto, and it was Bitcoin at this time, Litecoin. And, Ethereum kicked off. It was fairly new right? It started, but 2017 is really when Ethereum started kicking off, and we had this whole new Web3 ethos kick off. But I was ahead of the game, and it's proof right here because I built and released the program 17 and 18. Afterwards, I worked on as a co-founder with Deep Work, focusing on the hyper sprint, which is just another way of building products as fast as possible. As an engineer, the worst thing that I can do is provide a user interface, a user experience. It's just not good because I'm an engineer. So I needed to work on that skill. And because I'm an entrepreneur, I can go ahead and craft my opportunities to elevate my skills. And this is an example here with Deep Work. I wanted to learn more about how to focus on the users in a sense to provide them best user experience as possible. And this is a testament of being a lifelong learner and putting it into play, which then got me moving my interest towards impacting layer 0, layer 1 protocol. Depends on where you think the index starts, either 0 or 1. Either way, Celo was my foray into working on the core infrastructure of Web3 as a whole. And I got to do things fantastic, like set my fingerprint. Celo is focused on mobile, and I got to help participate crafting software development kit for engineers for iOS. I believe create the first one ever for iOS as a mobile platform. Got to work with founders, make sure they integrate the SDK that we created. That's me working with Chainlink. I got to work with Chainlink at Celo, build the backend infrastructure to help support it. This thing called soak testing. It's really hardening the environment to make sure that these integrations are sustainable. And that was a lot of learning and a lot of difficulties. One thing that I learned is it's not just showing up as 50% success, but the other 50% is following through and making sure you deliver. This was a challenge. So now my bigger challenge is HackRight. Like, what am I going to do? How am I going to take all these lessons learned my last 25 years and bring it into HackRight? And all I want to do is provide value. I'm looking for value exchange and giving my fingerprints to this world, global connected services, and also bring some fairness play that you can count on. So if you're doing business with HackRight or you're participating with HackRight, ethics are at the core. And I think it's really important in today's time. We need to start being more human-centric. Everything's being AI driven. How can you trust AI? Well, you trust the people behind the AI, right? So we need to remain human-centric. The whole point of self-branding, meetbrandy.com is where you can learn more about me, but I do have a whole strategy where I'm going to revamp meetbrandy.com to support the HackRight efforts and also the content efforts that we have to play for 2024 and 2025. So much more to come. That's why I'm starting a Brandy Camacho Show. Wait till you see this in 1 year's time. Holy Toledo, we have a roadmap ahead. That's it. I just want to give as much as I can to showcase to you a little about that history. I know I put a lot there at meetbrandy.com, but maybe just by showcasing that little presentation with you, I have a little bit of more of a fundamentals of why I'm energized to start things like HackRight.dev.
So talking about self-branding, as a tech veteran yourself, that's obviously a really important thing for women to be doing. Women, who have tech careers should be doing. What other advice you would give to women looking to build careers in tech or specifically in Web3 itself?
Ask more questions. Ask as many questions as you can. Find people that are going to take time to answer these questions with you. You're going to find that there's a lot of people that are going to give you interest and treat you a bit of a pet, right? And that's something I use in a lot of analogies when I communicate, but it's kind of challenging sometimes, these communications, because we don't talk about them enough. And before 30s, when I was in my 20s, when I look back, I felt like I was a pet. When I would interface with folks in Silicon Valley, they would not want to help me out because it made them look good. And I was more of a pet to them. Now, when I look back, I wish I was a little bit more self-branding of myself and more confident in myself, not hiding behind somebody thinking that they're helping me. because really what they're doing is helping themselves, utilizing me and my youth to get them new opportunities. I wish I learned a way to identify that earlier. Again, the number one thing is the imposter syndrome. If I solve the imposter syndrome, which truly you don't ever solve it, you just work with ways to work with it.
Mhm.
It's really about having faith in yourself. And that's the number one thing. It's just hammer out that imposter syndrome, believe in yourself. You convert the situation to being an empowered situation that helps build value for you. And like when I look back, the ingredient to my recipe was self branding myself because every time that I did those really cool things, if I had a self brand where I would touch base, build an audience, communicate with them, then I take away the power from the companies using me for my talent at that time. It allows me to segue my career focus to a new area and bring that audience with me. So that way I can build on it like interest does in your savings account, right? Like we're always looking for ways to compound value, and self branding is one way you can compound value. And women in tech, you need to do this as fast as possible because you have a voice, you have a story. And if we don't share it and we don't support each other, then the next generation is not going to know what to do. They're going to be lost. They're going to have to try to figure it out and they're going to waste 10 years of their life while other people take advantage of them. And what I would like to do is just try to help people fast track as much as possible to believe in themselves. You can do this. Whatever your goal is, do it. Just do it. Yeah.
Mhm. It's wise advice from Brandy for all the women out there in tech who are listening. I mean, I think it applies to the men as well. There's no real gender difference when it comes to self branding and putting yourself out there and being recognized for your work. So, you're a major supporter of the Hawaii Blockchain Summit. We're very thankful for your participation and honored that you chose to work with us. Why is an event like the Hawaii Blockchain Summit important to you?
Well, it starts with local. Here in Hawaii, we're in the middle of the Pacific. I think we have such a unique opportunity here in the Pacific when it comes to Web3 technologies. When you look at Web 1, you look at Web 2, was the era really fruitful for Hawaii, right? Sure, it did diversify. And when you look at things like the university, all the stuff we're doing in entertainment industry, all that tech that's right there. I mean, it's here, but are we utilizing it to the best of advantage? I would say no. It's still kind of a one-way street, right? When you look at Web 1 and Web 2 era, they're very starts of the internet. When I talk Web 1, I'm talking about the static world, the internet, the dot-com era. When I'm talking Web 2, I'm talking the Facebook, social networking era. Web 3 is all about crypto, all about blockchain. And Hawaii now gets to take advantage of this new globally connected world, this Web 3, and figure out a way to start providing services, automated services that can run in our data centers, that can provide value internationally. We have that ability right here. We're very special. There's a lot of, I can't even get in all into it on the political side, but talking to your constituents, you'll be able to find out that there's more support. There's some more uniqueness in Hawaii. If we could just find those things that are unique that help us connect globally services with Web3, I think we're going to elevate our community. That's why I'm excited about Blockchain Summit and your efforts. I just love working with you. I love building a
You.
focus on how we can be innovative together. And right now, I just want to say the compounding efforts of Web 1, that static world, the dynamic world of Web 2, social networking, Web 3 truly does provide us an opportunity to create new services that doesn't matter about your geolocation. This is the first time I think in my career, my 25 plus years of tech professionally, that everybody has an opportunity to participate in this sandbox. Before it was concentrated to Silicon Valley. I would have to literally, you know, go
Here.
down to Silicon Valley to get my foot in the door. You don't have to in today's world. You don't. This is Web 3. Yeah. And Hawaii should not be left behind. I love that we're doing this now. We're early enough that we can actually cause an impact. And finally, regulations is, removing the bottlenecks. And I'm really excited about not what we're doing in 2024. I'm excited for the future, 2025, 2026. This is going to be a different world. And I'm expecting that Hawaii is going to showcase some leadership in Web3.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we will. I mean, just getting started, right?
Yes.
Together. Awesome. I would love to wrap up, our interview today with one question that I always love asking my interviewees. If you could leave one word with your audience today, what would it be and why?
One word,
Mhm.
empowered. Empowered. And the reason why is you need to convert all that silliness that's bringing you down. If you're feeling your energies in the dark side of things online, fear brings you down. Convert it and be empowered. And then being empowered is really what changes your day. If I'm waking up in the morning and I'm not feeling good, I start figuring out why I'm not feeling good. And I start converting it because I want to be empowered. And every time I solve a problem, I get more empowered. So be a solution provider and empower yourself because it's going to give you the best treatment for yourself from your inner core. Like, I really love it. Like, after we disconnect today, you made my morning so much greater. I'm just blessed to interact and participate with you. And then for us to leave a fingerprint in here in Hawaii and help build opportunities for future generations in Hawaii. I'm empowered. I don't know about you, but that's going to make me feel good. I can't wait to see what this life looks like. I know that I'm going to be pressing rewind and looking at the things that we achieve here in Hawaii. That's why empowered to me is the key word.
Awesome. That's amazing, Brandy.
Thank you.
So all of you listening out there today, take this word with you and try to get it into your system, right? And use it to help you achieve the things you want to do today, tomorrow, and over the next couple of years until you achieve your dreams.
Yep. I
So
love it.
thank you so much, Brandy, for this amazing interview. And I'm sure the audience will have a lot to take away from today.
And make sure that if you're seeing this before the summit, get your ticket, see us at the summit. We're going to have fun. We're there. We can answer any questions for you. The core here is about connecting us, right? That's us coming together and supporting each other. So we're looking forward to seeing you there at the summit. And also, if this is after the summit and you're looking for the next event, get started, start communicating. This is a great community here in Hawaii. We love our people and we love you. And thank you so much for taking time today to watch this episode. I appreciate it.
Most importantly, follow the Brandy Camacho Show on YouTube.
Thank you for the plug. If you can find me at Brandy Camacho on YouTube, just go to youtube.com/Brandy Camacho. And on the internet, you can just search Brandy Camacho. You'll find it. Stuff will come up. Meetbrandy.com is much easier URL, by the way.
Awesome.
All right. Have a good one. Talk later.